Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this special edition on Al-Aqsa week, which I am here to host with brother Usama Irshad from Washington, the American Muslims of Palestine. Today we want to share with you our aspiration and our dreams for Al-Aqsa week, what it means, what it entails, and how you can participate as well on this amazing enterprise that we have started. We have been doing Aqsa Week for many years in Britain, but now we want to take it globally so that Muslims throughout the world and other communities as well can come to celebrate the importance and the significance of Masjid Al-Aqsa. Brother Usama, assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, brother Ismail.
Brother Usama, maybe you can start us telling a little bit about American Muslims of Palestine before we go into the Al-Aqsa Week.
Thank you, brother Ismail, and I'm very glad and very happy to share this event with you. And I'm very happy that we now started collaborating across the Atlantic. We're reaching out, so that's a good sign, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, and it's a good step in the right direction. The American Muslims for Palestine is an organization that started in 2006. It started as a small community organization, an organization that works within the Muslim community to fill a void, right after 9/11, because there was this anxiety within the American Muslim community when it comes to issues or hot issues like Palestine. Definitely Palestine, one of the hottest issues in the United States. So we started this organization in 2006 to fill that void. But alhamdulillah, this organization continued to grow to become a major organization in the solidarity movement, in the broader solidarity movement for Palestine in the US. Now we focus on raising awareness, on mobilization, and on advocacy. So we do a lot of grassroots advocacy, and we're about to launch a new organization, an affiliate organization doing lobbying for Palestine in America. There is a shift in America in relation to Palestine. We've seen this in Congress, and we're hoping that this one day will materialize to have an impact, a genuine and a real impact on the policy making in relation to Palestine. So this is some of the things that we do, and we're alhamdulillah honored to serve the cause, the blessed cause of Palestine.
Thank you very much, Jazakallah, for that. When we started Friends of Al-Aqsa in Britain and Al-Aqsa Week, obviously initially it was just internally, but when we decided to go international, you were one of the first people we approached, and obviously you welcome us more than anything else to take over the event and try and be part and parcel of it. Tell me, how come that you were so quick and easy to accept Aqsa Week? What do you understand by it?
Number one, we're indebted to you for taking the initiative. It is long past due to do something for the Aqsa, and something that is centered around the Aqsa and Jerusalem, because it might be absent from our discourse in relation to our work in the broader movement here in the US or maybe in Europe and other parts of the world, because there is that worry and that anxiety that we maybe shouldn't, invoke the religious component when it comes to Palestine. But at the same time, if we continue to ignore this issue, we're ignoring that there is a 1.5 billion Muslims who do identify with Palestine through Jerusalem and through the Aqsa Mosque. So when we accepted your generous invitation for us to be a co-sponsor of this event with you, we understood that there shouldn't be a void left here. We do a lot of policy work here in America. We do a lot of good work in the broader solidarity movement for Palestine with Jewish, Christian, multi-ethnic organizations that work for Palestine. But we want to also focus on our ummah, because the Muslim ummah is the depth of Palestine and the Palestinian people. Al-Quds and Al-Aqsa do represent that powerful symbolism. We cannot just ignore. So I would say, it serves raising awareness. Knowledge is power. We cannot be absent when it comes to injecting facts, factual information, because if we do so, what will prevail is misinformation and disinformation. I'll just give you a quick example. When the Trump administration, brought UAE and Bahrain to sign the normalization agreements with Israel back in September, the Abraham's Accord. Trump, one of the things that he said in his statement that maybe many people didn't pay attention to, he said that peaceful Muslims will have the right to visit the historical sites in Israel. And he emphasized Al-Haram al-Sharif, the sacred Haram, the sanctuary of the Masjid, and or the Temple Mount. So there is this attempt, concentrated attempt to establish a new narrative that negates and cancels our narrative as Muslims, while we're saying we do want to religionize the issue because that's not good for us. But we're not really trying to inject religion here. We're trying to inject the right information that Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa mean to us something as Muslims, as it means something in the movement, in the quest for justice in Palestine.
Absolutely. I mean, Masjid Al-Aqsa is very central to Muslims throughout the world. We consider it as a symbol of Islam and Muslims. It's been part of Muslim heritage and history. Major events that are associated to our history are focused around Masjid Al-Aqsa, of course, in particularly the night of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, which is on the 27th of Rajab. And it also coincides with Aqsa Week, which will be between the 6th and the 12th of March. Now, what you picked up, Brother Usama, was very important, that while Masjid Al-Aqsa is within Palestine, Masjid Al-Aqsa belongs to the whole Ummah. It is not a Palestinian property, neither is it an Arab property, but it belongs to the Muslims. And this is something we want to really emphasize in Aqsa Week, that Muslims, wherever they are in the world, they have now an opportunity to revive the love and the devotion and the affection for Masjid Al-Aqsa by doing something in Aqsa Week. And this is why we have joined up with American Muslims of Palestine in the very first year, so that we can show you some of the stuff you can do, how you can organize events, how you can hold seminars and conferences and invite other people. But more than us doing it, I think what we have to do is we have to get you, every individual, wherever you are, especially if you're a part of an organization, a school, a university, a madrasa, even within parliaments, try and do something yourselves for people concerned. And as Brother Usama mentioned, that the symbol of Al-Aqsa is very central to us. And we have to champion that symbol, because if we do not champion it, there'll be nobody else to speak about it. And we have inherited this great symbol from our pious predecessors and people who have strived to keep it amongst us. And I think it's our responsibility and duty to carry on. Brother Usama, talking about a wider issue of Aqsa Week, which is between 6th and the 12th of March. How do you advise people to function and to carry out some of these events?
So, number one, I think as you said, we need to prioritize the Aqsa Week and the Aqsa Mosque.
Yeah.
That is the bedrock when it comes to our faith and how we're related to Palestine. I'm a Palestinian. This is the map of Palestine. This is the flag of Palestine. So I grew up as a Palestinian, yes, as a refugee in Jordan, but I did grow up as a Palestinian. So my affiliation with Palestine will also involve that national aspect of it.
Sure.
But people need to understand that we're talking about a just cause in Palestine. We're not only talking about a land that represents some sort of symbolism and significance in our religion. We're talking about justice. And our religion is about justice. When the Quran tells us that Allah sends the messenger and he sent down with them the books and the balance in order for men to stand for justice, to achieve justice and to implement justice. So we need to remember that this is an issue of justice. This is not a conflict between two parties. Yeah. The Palestinians are being subjugated. They're not fighting back. It's not like they're the counterpart or equal to Israel and they're like fighting together. That's not how it is. Because I hear a lot of people, and sometimes unfortunately Muslims, and which, by the way, this is something that I want to ask you about too after I finish this. I see some Muslims saying, why do you continue to fight? I mean, just give them that small piece of land. You know, we have this vast Arab world there. Just go to the Arab world, go, you have a vast depth. A, that's all right. You know, that's my land. B, there are about 6 million Palestinians living under an apartheid regime within Palestine, the historical Palestine, within the state of Israel today, and within the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and East Jerusalem. We're talking about 6 million people who are being discriminated against, who are being subjugated, who are being humiliated on a daily basis. So whether they're Muslims, Arab or not, it doesn't matter. They're human beings. So that's number one. Two, so we need to educate. It's not that two sides are arguing over a piece of land. There is one side subjugating another side. The other thing is, people need to understand that there is these historical and religious claims involved. I would refer people to a speech given by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, in September 2011, before the UN General Assembly. I want you to Google that speech and to hear what he said, how he constructed a narrative that I called false. He spoke about a small seal in his office, has a name inscripted on it. The name is Netanyahu. And this seal dates back to 2,700 years. And then he tells us the story of his name, Netanyahu, Benjamin, the son of Jacob, the son of Israel. Tells us how the Jews roamed the hills of Judea and Samaria. Then that's a construction of a narrative. If you deny the Palestinians to construct their narrative, their human narrative, their human suffering, their historical claims that we were there before, or we were there, and our religious claims, they're saying, oh, it's the third sacred place in Islam. Oh, it wasn't even sacred according to some. It's politics that made it sacred. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he was fighting with Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr had Mecca and the Medina al-Munawwara under his rule, and so he wanted a new symbol to counterpart or to counterweight the symbols that under him. So he brought Al-Quds, and he made he built the Dome of the Rock, and he made it religious for Muslims. This is an utter lie. We need to learn about our historical facts and our religious facts as we're learning about the humanitarian situation, the human suffering in Palestine, the political aspects, the complacency by states like the UK, by the United States in enabling the aggression in Palestine. And that will lead me to a question to you. When I first came to your event 2 years ago, before the pandemic, I think it was June 2019. One of the things that fascinated me, Akhi Ismail, is that the overwhelming volunteers who were leading that event for Palestine were from the Indian subcontinent. They weren't Palestinians, they weren't Arabs. And we had a discussion about it. And I remember you or someone else saying, we wish to see more Palestinians and more Arab involvement. And I remember telling you, we wish to see the opposite in America. I would love to hear what brought you into this cause and why do you take it as a mission?
Well, for me, it's very simple. I mean, I don't want to go into personal thing at this stage, Brother Usama, but let me sort of put it back into Aqsa Week. The love for Al-Aqsa that ignited when I first visited Jerusalem in 1997 has stayed with me. You know, it is a symbol of unity for me. It is a symbol of what Muslims mean and the barometer of our iman. For me, it shows so much greatness that Islam has had to offer. And therefore, Al-Aqsa Week has to personify that. Now, if we just think of two examples of how great our history and heritage is. I mean, when the Jews were repelled from Jerusalem, when they were expelled, it was Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, when he liberated Jerusalem, that he allowed them back. The second time after the Crusaders, when the Jews were again thrown out, again Salahuddin Ayyubi allowed them back. Not only that, but even the Christians were allowed to stay within the city of Jerusalem. So we are an inclusive faith. And that symbolism of inclusiveness, that greatness that no other faith has been able to show around Jerusalem is done through Masjid al-Aqsa. Even up till today, as you know, Brother Usama, and many of our listeners will know, that the keys to the Church of Holy Sepulchre are held by a Muslim, even up to today. I mean, that shows that we as a faith have got a great heritage and history, something we need to be proud of. we need to tell the world about. Just because there are different faiths in Jerusalem, it doesn't mean that equals conflict. When Muslim ruled Jerusalem, there was peace and tranquility. And this is what drives me about Masjid Al-Aqsa and the fascination and the passion I have about it, because I think it teaches us so much, and it can teach us so much more, how to live amongst each other and how to be in a global world with different faiths and different groups of people. And we can learn all that from Masjid Al-Aqsa. But more important than that, you touch on something, Brother Usama, that, there's a lot of conflicting stories nowadays to undermine the principles and the importance of Al-Aqsa. And this is something we want Al-Aqsa Week to emphasize. Al-Aqsa Week is the only mosque named in the Holy Quran apart from the Kaaba. There is no other masjid named in the Holy Quran. Al-Aqsa is the only one apart from the Kaaba. Now, we as believers know that every word, every letter in the Holy Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we cannot negate it. And that is how central it is to Muslims. And we need to bring that back. We need to understand how important Masjid Al-Aqsa is. And this is why Masjid Al-Aqsa Week comes in. So we want brothers and sisters across the globe to do something about it. As you will find many resources. If you don't have this, please visit our website and also the Association of Muslims Palestine website, so that you have some material which you can present from children from as young as 4 to 6 year olds, how you can tell them stories about Palestine, to teenagers, to adults, to even scholars and imams who want to use the 27th of Rajab as a khutbah. We have even khutbahs for you. So let's try and use this and emphasize the importance of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. And through that, get the love. And more than that, I think it will also help us as individuals to empower us in this day and age, as Brother Usama has been mentioning, that, we're being battered left, right, and center, trying to undermine our own principle, our own heritage, and what we stand for. So here is a symbol that we can use and try and to empower us, and also use to show what is happening to the Palestinians and liberate one of our greatest symbols. So for that, I think Brother Usama is something that is very important for me. That's why Al-Aqsa Week, we're putting so much effort, and we're so grateful for you to be part and parcel of this and guiding us and also helping us with your expertise in these different regions. But we need to really emphasize to the world that they need to take this on board and make it an annual event, because Aqsa Week shouldn't just also be for this year only. Every year, I think, people around the world should motivate themselves when 27th of Rajab comes, which we normally celebrate Aqsa, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, excuse me. But this time, let's coordinate ourselves so that we can see that solidarity globally. And we want to use a hashtag called Love Aqsa. So in the week of Al-Aqsa Week, between 6th and the 12th of March, let's use hashtag Love Aqsa, and let's trend that globally so that we can hopefully empower each other and show the world society what Al-Aqsa means to the Muslims, what it means to us as believers, and where our sort of interest lies. And we should also use that symbol for a wider purpose, I think. It shouldn't just be something for Muslims. I think there are many people around the world who are subjugated and are under occupation or are oppressed. And I think if they use the symbol of Al-Aqsa, I think it will empower them as well for learning from this history. What are your thoughts on those issues, Brother Osama?
Absolutely. Injustice anywhere is justice everywhere, as Martin Luther King once said. It doesn't matter who's suffering, and it doesn't matter who the oppressor is. Even if the oppressor is a Muslim, or claims to be a Muslim, or claims to be an Arab, we don't take their side. It's our moral compass, our religious compass. It's our humanity that ban us from standing with the oppressors. So when we stand with the oppressed, regardless where they are, we're doing the right thing. In America here, when we had the Black Lives Matter movement, when we had these demonstrations and protests in America because of the police brutality, it wasn't an issue of race. It wasn't an issue of religion, religious affiliations. It was an issue for humanity. When we stood with our brothers and sisters in the African American community, we stood with them on principle, and many of them are standing with us on principle. I'll add to this that maybe people don't know back in the countries that we come from, like from in the Arab world, maybe they don't know that most of the vocal activists for Palestine in America, and I'm sure in the UK and across Europe, are Jews. We have Jewish partners here, Jewish organization partners. We have Jewish individuals who are standing on principle when it comes to justice in Palestine. I'm sure that our moral compass is definitely no different. If Jews were to be oppressed, we have to take their side. If we were at the time of when the Holocaust took place, we had no other option but to stand with the oppressed. It doesn't matter what the religion is. That's where we come from. You spoke about the the Muslims' tolerance. Muslims allowing Jews back into Palestine and into Jerusalem. I also want to remind people that during the Ottoman Empire, when the Spanish acquisition took place in Andalusia, Muslims were brutally murdered and killed, and the Jews suffered the same fate with Muslims. The Sultan at the time, I think his name was Murad, I'm not sure of his name, issued a decree dictating or commanding all of the Muslim countries at the time to take the Jewish migration, the Jewish refugees, and to treat them as they treat the Muslims who are coming from Andalusia, not to treat them any less. He protected them as he protected the Muslims. There was no differentiation between Muslims and Jews who sought and who were looking for protection and for safety. That's why we have Jews today in Tunisia. That's why there is Jews in Morocco. That's why there are Jews in Algeria. That's why Jews were able to come to Palestine and live in safety. Because that's what our religion tells us. That's what our moral compass tells us. That's what our human compass tells us. We cannot differentiate, and we cannot subjugate people. When I look at the situation in Kashmir, it is an issue of oppression. And I will stand with the people of Kashmir, regardless of their religion. When I look at the situation in China, it's not because the Uyghur are Muslims. I stand with them because they're oppressed. When I look at the situation in Myanmar today, yesterday it was the Rohingya Muslims who were oppressed. Today the entire Myanmar, the entire people of Myanmar are being oppressed by a coup, by a military coup. I stand, and I have no other option but to stand with the aspirations of the people, regardless of their religion. So when it comes to what we're calling for, we're not calling for the exclusion of any component or any people or any side from having the right to access Jerusalem or to live in Palestine. The issue is, how do you come? Do you come as a colonizer? Do you come as part of an enterprise that is based on oppression and canceling the indigenous inhabitants of the land, and claiming that they're somehow popped up there and they had no roots and no connection? So that's what we're calling for. We're calling for justice, and we're on the right side. That's what gives us strength. That's what makes us effective. It's not because we have the resources that the other side has. It's not because we have lobbies as strong as theirs, but we are telling the truth. We are showing the real suffering of people. We're showing raw material, raw images coming from Palestine. It's because we're telling the truth. People are seeing what is taking place. We're not making up stories. We're not manufacturing. We're not, trying to lie and deceive. We're telling the truth. That's why we're strong. Although we're out, we don't have the same resources, and we don't have maybe the same influence, and maybe we're still new into this work. But people can connect and can identify with the human suffering when they see it, regardless of religion, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of color. That's, I think, part of what gives us this boost and gives us this encouragement to continue this work, because we know it is paying off, and it will continue to pay off if we continue this work.
I think that's a very way to summarize what Al-Aqsa Week is all about. That Al-Aqsa symbol, it symbolizes that truth. It symbolizes that haq, if you like. and the suffering of the Palestinians and the oppressed there. And therefore, it's a symbol not just for Palestinians, for, as we mentioned, greater, wider society. So, as a message to a wider community, Brother Usama, so that they participate in Aqsa Week, if we can focus on Aqsa Week itself, what would your message to them be today?
My message, Akhi, is one, to prioritize the situation in Palestine, and to take this Aqsa Week as a launching pad to continue to discuss the situation in Palestine. We're not reducing it to Al-Aqsa. Use this as a symbol. Use this as your launching pad, that from which you discuss the broader issues of the Palestinians. When we talk about the Judaization of Jerusalem today, we're talking about human suffering. We're talking about house demolitions inside Jerusalem today. So it's not like reducing it into a religious component. No, actually, you can expand it from there. You can expand it from there. In America, there was letters circulated and letters issued by members of Congress to the Trump administration, and now there is a new one going to the Biden administration about house demolitions. These, people's houses are being demolished in Jerusalem. They're destroying lives. They're shattering lives there. We're talking about the human beings. They're destroying lives by our tax money here in America. If I'm talking about America, by equipments that are made in America, made in Europe, by the enablement that Israel receives by this complicity, by the West that we live in. So we should use this as a launching pad, as an opportunity for us to expand our reach and to expand the issues that we want to discuss. Talk about how Palestinians are. Talk about the vaccines now. Talk about the vaccines. Now, it's not only that, the Palestinians in the West Bank or Palestinians in Gaza, the Gaza Strip that has been under now a blockade for almost 15 years. It's not only them who are being denied access to vaccine. In fact, Palestinians in East Jerusalem are not being treated as equal to their counterpart in what is known as West Jerusalem. So now we're talking about an apartheid regime that exists, that takes place, that has no regard for human for the human sacredness, for the human life's sacredness. They have no regard for human safety. They have no regard for for the suffering of these people who always, the only crime that they committed is that they were born on the land that their ancestors lived on for thousands of years. That's the only crime that they've committed. They're just among the unfortunate now suddenly that they, somehow found themselves in their own land being treated as foreigners and as strangers. So I want to remind everyone, remember this, you can always expand from there. It's not limited to one issue. We can always expand because this is a symbol, a powerful symbol. Let me give you one last thing. I brought your attention to the speech of Netanyahu in 2011 before the UN General Assembly. In that speech, he said they accuse us of Judaizing Jerusalem. It is as if you're accusing the Americans of Americanizing Washington and accusing the British of Englising London. So now look at the claims, the outrageous claims that he's making. So suddenly now Jerusalem is by definition is Jewish, by definition. Okay, we could say it's his narrative. He has the right to it. But what about my narrative? Do I have the right for it or not? Why am I ashamed to say Jerusalem is Palestinian, is Arab and Muslim? Why am I ashamed to say it? If we're talking about two competing narratives, my role is to defend my narrative, not to undermine my narrative because I'm ashamed of it. But at the same time, the difference between my narrative and his is that my narrative is not based on exclusion. It is not based on kicking out or subjugating other people. Jews, Christian, Muslims have lived in peace for centuries in that part of the world. It's not Judaism. Our issue is with a colonial enterprise, with an ideology, the Zionist ideology, that hijacked a religion and claims to speak for it. And now they want us to they want to deter us from criticizing Israel, because the criticism of Israel now became synonymous with anti-Semitism. We should reject this and continue to say Israel does not represent Judaism. Our problem is not with Judaism, not with Jews. Our problem is with a colonial enterprise that is based on subjugating, based on thievery, and based on oppression, regardless of who is the oppressor, the identity of the oppressor, regardless of the identity of the oppressed.
Thank you very much for that, my brother Usama. Jazakallah, can Allah reward you abundantly and carry on your great work. So for me, it's just to summarize now of Aqsa Week itself, and to put that appeal out again, once again, as I sort of mentioned at the beginning. Aqsa Week is between 6th and the 12th of March. It coincides with the night of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, 27th of Rajab. We hope that we carry out Aqsa Week every year, where Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj falls in the middle of our Aqsa Week. Remember, Aqsa is the symbol of Islam. It is our great heritage and history. It is something that we should be proud of. Aqsa has provided us with many events historically that Muslims can stand up to. And there's no other society that can reflect what we have done through Masjid al-Aqsa itself, or rather what Masjid al-Aqsa has done for us. And we need to portray that in the global society. We want everybody, wherever you are, to be able to hold events. As I mentioned earlier, please visit our websites so that you can have some resources of how to hold an event in your area. But more important than that is if you can hashtag Love Aqsa in the week of Aqsa, hopefully we'll be able to trend that globally so that we can show the devotion that Al-Aqsa requires and the solidarity through that for the Palestinian cause and for the Ummah's unity as well, that is so greatly needed. So I hope you will join us for that. So before I say my salams, Brother Usama, do you want to add any last words?
I just want to tell our brothers and sisters who are watching us now in the Arab world, that trust that you have brothers and sisters in America who are working on your behalf for our issues, our causes, not only Palestine, all of our causes. We need you to trust us, to continue to make dua for us and to follow us, because whether in the UK or in the US or in any other part of the world, there are always those vanguards who stand for justice. We continue to fight for it. We never renounced or denounced, and we will never abandon our connections, our connection to our causes and to you. We're part of you, and we're working on your behalf, inshallah. So make dua for us and help us by following us and following what we do here in America and in the UK, in the work of the Friends of Al-Aqsa and other organizations, and under the leadership of great leaders like our beloved brother Ismail.
Jazakallah, Brother Usama. And finally, to all our viewers, please do remember us in your du'as. As Brother Usama has mentioned, you are not alone in this. There are people right across the globe working for you, and the passion they have and the sacrifices they do, I cannot enumerate them. There are so many. And we need to have faith. We need to have belief in our own history and heritage and our teachings and our faith, so that we can talk about it openly to people of our own groups and then to a wider community. I think what is most important in Aqsa Week is let's begin educating ourselves first, so that we build that love for Masjid al-Aqsa, and through that we try and then spread it wide to our surroundings, and hopefully together we'll unite and create a force where we can liberate Masjid al-Aqsa and the Palestinian people for justice and peace in the region, where everybody can live equally, as both myself and Usama agree on. So Jazakallah Khan for joining us, and please do remember us in your dua. More than that, let's see we commemorate Aqsa Week together between 6th and 12th of March. Jazakallah Khan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.